It's time for another Black History clip. Robert Smalls. Robert Smalls was an American politician, publisher, businessman, and maritime pilot. Robert Smalls was born in 1839. Robert Smalls was the son of Lydia Polite. They lived in a small slave cabin behind the home of Henry McKee in Beaufort, South Carolina. McKee enslaved both Robert and his mother. At the age of 12, McKee sent Robert Smalls to Charleston, South Carolina to be hired out. There he worked as a waiter in a hotel, and later he was hired out in the city's docks. That is where he met an enslaved woman named Hannah Jones. They married around 1856. Robert Smalls was an enslaved crew member on a ship called the Planter that was operating in the Charleston harbor around the time of the outbreak of the Civil War in 1861. The owners of the ship contracted the vessel out to the Confederate Army as a transport ship. Robert Smalls found himself as a pilot on board that ship. In 1862, the Confederacy had achieved numerous battlefield victories, so at that time it seemed that the quest to create an independent slaveholders' republic might in fact succeed. Robert Smalls decided not to wait around and find out, so instead he devised a plan to free himself and his family. The evening of May 12, 1862, white crew members of the Planter went ashore in Charleston, leaving Smalls and the other enslaved crew members unattended. So around 3 a.m., Smalls and the other freedom seekers fired up the ship's boilers and sailed to a wharf to pick up their awaiting family members. From there, the 16 enslaved people passed Confederate forces both at Fort Sumter and Fort Moultrie. Since he was a pilot, Robert Smalls knew the proper signals to give, and he even went as far as to don a captain's hat to help disguise his identity. Smalls sailed the group out to the Naval Blockade Squadron, and then he turned the Planter over to the United States Navy. At that point, Robert Smalls and his family went free. He also provided valuable intelligence on Confederate operations around the Charleston harbor. His vast knowledge of the waters allowed him to serve as a pilot on a number of naval vessels operating in actions against Confederate forces. He was eventually promoted to captain and given command of the Planter. In 1864, Smalls took the Planter to Philadelphia to be overhauled and re-outfitted, and it saw service throughout the Civil War. In January of 1864, using the prize money from the capture of the Planter, Smalls purchased the mansion of Henry McKee, the man who had formerly enslaved him and his mother. He was able to do this via a tax auction of properties that belonged to white residents who had fled when the city fell into U.S. hands in 1861. Suddenly, the formerly enslaved man found himself not only a war hero and a national celebrity, but the property owner of a mansion. His status as a war hero partially endeared him to the military authorities in the Low Country area. With his connection to the thousands of enslaved people, including those of Gullah heritage, it made him a national leader in the emerging Reconstruction era. Later in 1864, Smalls would begin his career in politics. This is just a quick overview of Robert Smalls. Please visit the links in the description box to read more detail about his story. The Black History clip was made possible by the information found in the link below from nps.gov. Please like and subscribe. Black History Matters. Thank you so much for watching. The more you know, the more you grow.